up today, Chung Sye-kyun of Korea's main opposition party is the new Speaker of the National Assembly. He vows to regain the public's trust in Parliament. Facing 18 months of tumbling exports and pressure over corporate restructuring, Korea's central bank slashes its key interest rate to a new record low of 1.25%. First, US President Barack Obama formally endorses presumptive Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton in a video released by the Clinton campaign. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Friday, June 10th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, a breakthrough at Korea's National Assembly as the rival parties finally elect a new Assembly Speaker and 2 deputies. The heads of more than a dozen parliamentary committees were also selected. For more on the new faces, Park Ji-won reports.
Lawmakers elected Chung Sye-kyun as their new Assembly Speaker at the first plenary session of the 20th National Assembly on Thursday afternoon. The 6th-term lawmaker from the main opposition Minju Party will lead the parliament for the next 2 years. The 65-year-old is a former industry and energy minister and is considered a potential presidential candidate. Chung vowed to do his utmost to regain the public trust.
As Assembly Speaker, I will try to regain the public trust through efficient management of political and social conflicts. I will make a parliament that helps the public, not one that burdens them. But I cannot do it alone. I urge my fellow lawmakers to gather their knowledge and wisdom to make a productive parliament.
The deputy speaker posts went to Shim Jae-chul, a 5-term Saenuri Party lawmaker and former journalist, and Park Ju-sun, a 4-term People's Party lawmaker and former prosecutor. Korea's main political parties had been locked in battle over the speaker post up until Wednesday, as the speaker enjoys several important rights, including the right to put bills directly up for a vote at plenary sessions without having to go through the deliberation process under certain conditions. The conflict ended when the ruling Saenuri Party yielded the post to the Minju Party out of respect to the result of April's general elections, when it was stripped of its parliamentary majority. Instead, the ruling party will now chair the influential Judiciary Committee. In all, the Saenuri Party and the Minju Party will each chair 8 of the 18 committees, and the People's Party will chair 2. The 3 parties are scheduled to vote on the candidates Monday. With the speaker post filled, the opening ceremony for the 20th National Assembly will be held later the same day, signaling a fresh start for the new parliament. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, some big economic news on Thursday as the Bank of Korea put an end to almost 1 year of holding the key interest rate steady. The surprise decision is part of the central bank's efforts to reinvigorate the economy at a time when the government is moving forward with its corporate restructuring drive. Hwang Jie reports.
It was a bolt out of the blue that few were expecting. The Bank of Korea on Thursday cut its key rate by 1/4 of a percentage point to an unprecedented low of 1.25%. The unanimous decision came as the economy has seen its traditional growth engine exports fall sharply for almost a year and a half.
We believe there are considerable downside risks in the second half of this year. The slowdown in global trade is greater than we had forecast in April, and downward pressure could mount as the government's corporate restructuring gains momentum.
But the top central banker brushed aside speculation that the rate trim is aimed at facilitating the process of corporate restructuring, adding that it was a preemptive move to tackle the low growth trend. And experts say it would have been now or never for Korea's central bank to cut the rate, as the worse-than-expected U.S. jobs data in May tempered forecasts of a rate hike by the Federal Reserve in June, in return giving leeway for the BOK. Maneuvering the rate against the Fed's interest rate plans has prompted fears of massive capital outflows in emerging markets, and Korea is no exception.
It's a matter of when, but considering the Fed will likely raise its interest rates in the second half of the year, June may have been the appropriate month for Korea's monetary policymakers to go with a rate cut decision.
The governor emphasized, though, a rate cut itself will not put the economy back on track to a solid recovery, and that fiscal policy, as well as structural reforms, should also follow. Concern over further exacerbating household debt is another thorny issue that the central bank will have to confront. Despite the potential negative effects of a lower rate, Governor Lee left the door open for additional cuts, saying all options still remain on the table for possible scenarios ahead. Hwang Jie, Arirang News.
Korea's Fair Trade Commission is overhauling its regulations as part of efforts to boost investment and activity in the nation's corporate sector. Kim Jong-soo reports.
The Korea Fair Trade Commission has announced a series of selective reforms targeting the country's major conglomerates with the aim of boosting domestic business activities. Before the change, Korean conglomerates needed to have a minimum asset of 5 trillion won, or $4.3 billion, before being subject to intense FTC scrutiny and regulation. As a result, 65 companies were placed on the FTC watch list from 2009 until today. Korea's fair trade law prohibited these conglomerates from making equity investments in affiliate companies. It also banned such affiliates from providing loan guarantees to one another because it could potentially lead to excessive power concentration in conglomerates. But with the reform in effect, the limit has been raised from 5 trillion to 10 trillion won, or $9.6 billion, thereby lowering the number of regulated conglomerates from 65 to 28. Publicly owned companies are exempt from this plan as well. The FTC has explained that the heightened criteria is an appropriate response to the nation's steady economic growth, as the combined assets of the 65 designated companies doubled from $1 trillion in late 2007 to roughly $2.1 trillion by the end of 2015. But the news has been met with mixed responses. Companies that have been let off the hook will now share various employment and tax benefits that were originally designated for mid-sized companies. But there are worries that this would actually disrupt the already struggling economic ecosystem.
A policy like this will only worsen the current polarization of the Korean economy as struggling mid-sized companies face even more competition from big corporations. The Korean government must strive to work out policies that benefit the whole of the economy.
Meanwhile, the FTC has also said it will coordinate its recent changes with other ministries to minimize negative spillovers and possible problems. Kim Jong-soo, Arirang News.
Now, there's a lot of talk that we're on the cusp of the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution. But is Korea ready for the rapid technological transformation? To find out, we spoke exclusively to Seoul's Minister of Science, ICT and Future Planning, Chae-young-hee. Lee Min-young with the details.
Fourth Industrial Revolution is now a word on everybody's lips, which can be described as a confluence of artificial intelligence, robotics, the Internet of Things, autonomous vehicles, among other things. The word is not only pervasive, but also changing and impacting our lives faster than any of us had imagined. And Korea as well is already a part of that change. In an exclusive interview with Arirang News Center, Seoul Science and ICT Minister Chae-young-hee said Korea's future is bright as structural changes in the industrial landscape is picking up steam.
With the right strategy to boost entrepreneurial spirit and spur investment, I have no doubt that Korea can take a big leap forward and become a global leader in the Fourth Industrial Revolution.
His one-on-one with Arirang's Gayoung was shot in 360 degrees VR technology, which Korea's top policymaker in future technology says he personally enjoys himself. On the ever-growing VR technology, Choi noted that Korean tech giants like Samsung and LG have been taking the world's center stage, and that the government together with the private sector will invest roughly $156 million in the next 3 years. He also touched upon regulatory as well as ethical issues surrounding the technological revolution, emphasizing that social consensus is key in establishing new regulations and redefining moral boundaries.
We've been carrying out active discussions to make sure it is empowering and human-centered.
The Ministry of Science, ICT, and Future Planning will unveil a Grand Master Plan comprising long-term strategy envisioning the future of Korea before the end of this year. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
Now, you can find Moon Gayoung's exclusive interview with Minister Chair by going to the Thursday edition of Arirang News Centre on the VOD section of our website, arirang.com/news, or you can go to our official Arirang News YouTube site. The addresses are down there. Now, government leaders from Asia-Pacific countries gathered in Incheon on Thursday to discuss ways to empower women through ICT, highlighting a number of initiatives from Korea. Oh Seung reports.
Empowering women economically and socially through ICT is a regional challenge for Asia-Pacific countries. It's also one of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. According to the World Economic Forum, the Asia-Pacific region ranks second lowest in gender equality in terms of economic opportunities, also lagging behind in political participation, education and health. To bridge these severe gender gaps with ICT, officials from the region gathered at a forum held by the UN's Asia-Pacific Center for ICT Development and the Korean government. Korea's Minister of Science and the Minister of Gender Equality shared the country's ICT-related initiatives.
We support women in every stage of their lives with job training programs for the youth, career boosting programs for working women. We also help women return to work with our re-employment program, which includes professional ICT courses.
Based on its progress at home, Korea also promotes ICT-based empowerment around the world. The Gender Equality Ministry runs job training centres for women in Vietnam and Laos, as well as policy-making workshops. Korea has also provided ICT support in form of foreign aid to roughly 40 Asian countries, ranging from governance and leadership to agriculture and basic computer skills. The country's latest aid initiative, Better Life for Girls, targets young women in particular to build up ICT-based vocational skills and nurture entrepreneurs. Building on such experiences, participants at the forum discussed ways to implement the region's Women and ICT Frontier Initiative, or Wi-Fi, launched during the event.
Wi-Fi aiming to bring ICT-enabled entrepreneurship for the woman entrepreneur with ICT education, with application developed and with appropriate training. We would like to transform this woman to be more competent business person.
These efforts and discussions aim to contribute to the region's broader goal of nurturing sustainable human capacity development. The forum runs through Friday. Oh Seung, Arirang News.
The South Korean government has lodged a complaint with the Chinese government over illegal fishing in the West Sea. The two sides will discuss the issue in the coming weeks. Jung-hee has the details.
Korea's foreign ministry announced Thursday that it has called on China for solutions regarding Chinese boats fishing illegally in Korea's West Sea.
After Korean fishermen seized Chinese fishing boats that were found operating illegally in the West Sea, Seoul filed a complaint against Beijing through diplomatic channels twice, on Tuesday and Wednesday. We urge China to immediately take a powerful and effective set of measures.
The number of illegal Chinese fishing boats found in Korean waters has been growing over the years, with the number reaching more than 29,000 in 2015. The issue surfaced once again early this week as a group of Korean fishermen captured 2 Chinese fishing boats on Sunday.
Korea has been asking for the Chinese government to exercise stricter control on illegal fishing boats on numerous occasions, including summit meetings and foreign ministerial meetings.
The issue will be discussed at the 9th ROK-China meeting on fisheries cooperation, which is to take place in Korea later this month or early next month. The meeting has been held twice a year since 2012 to discuss maritime issues in the West Sea, especially regarding illegal Chinese fishing boats. Korea's foreign ministry stressed it'll continue multidimensional efforts while keeping close communication with the Coast Guard and Fisheries Ministry to eradicate the presence of illegal Chinese vessels in Korean waters. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Hillary Clinton has won President Barack Obama's endorsement as his favored successor. In a video message released by the Clinton campaign, Obama said the presumptive Democratic Party nominee was so qualified and had, quote, the courage, the compassion and the heart to get the job done. Obama said he was very eager to campaign for Clinton and called for the Democratic Party to unite behind her. Earlier this week, Clinton surpassed the magic number of delegates required to win the Democratic ticket and become the first female presidential nominee of a major U.S. party. The endorsement increases pressure on Clinton's rival Bernie Sanders to concede the race. Sanders has not yet offered his backing to Clinton. After talks with Obama at the White House, Sanders said he would meet Clinton in the near future and work with her to ensure the Republican Donald Trump was not elected president in November. The Vermont senator said he would stay in the race until the final Democratic primary vote in Washington, D.C. on June 14th. UN Secretary-General Ban Kimoon has vowed to exert all his efforts on his duties for the remainder of his second and final term. The remarks come at a time when there's heightened speculation he may run for the South Korean presidency next year. During a recent trip to South Korea, Ban said he would contemplate his next steps as a South Korean citizen when he returns to his home country. He told reporters Thursday that he will never be distracted from his mandate as Secretary-General of the United Nations. When asked about worries that a possible presidential bid would affect his ability to perform his lead role at the UN, Ban said criticism directed his way was undue and unreasonable. Well, that's all we have for you on this Friday morning here in Seoul. Have a great day. Goodbye.